Good day, ladies and gentlemen. It's Daniel Umstead, host of the RNG radio show. Yes, I got another amazing guest on the show, but you know what I got to do first? I got to run through the bio. So my guest is a seasoned African-American woman with more than 30 years experience as a psychiatrist. She has worked hard to fulfill what she felt was her calling to help relieve suffering. Fast forwarding to 2021, she suffered burnout during the COVID pandemic and knew she had to make a change, but wasn't sure how. She came across RTT, known as Rapid Transformational Therapy, and thought it would be helpful for her patients. While becoming certified, she became aware of some of the messages she had internalized growing up Black in America. And despite education and qualifications, her life experiences had deposited some unconscious limiting beliefs. She found the RTT experience liberating, and she is committed to helping professional women of color who are stuck, blocked by hidden barriers to reach their unlimited potential. And ladies and gentlemen, I have with me today, Dr. Kimberly Walker. Dr. Kimberly, how is everything? And thank you again for coming on the show. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me, Daniel.
So let's, COVID definitely was impactful. I can't even believe that it was like 3-4 years ago. Tell me about your story again, as far as, just getting involved with RTT. You've been doing, being a psychiatrist for, decades. And then now it's like, hey, what's this RTT about? And, incorporating that, helping women of color. Can you talk about your story more as it relates to that?
Sure, I'd be happy to. So, as mentioned, I practice psychiatry and still practice psychiatry, adult, child, and adolescent for years. So COVID caused this shift. Of course, I went from being in an office to being behind a screen, my iPad, seeing patients virtually. And, there was just misery, anxiety, depression, suicidal feelings. I mean, that is what I was encountering with my patients day after day. And it kind of led to some burnout, compassion fatigue. And I thought, ooh, I don't know that I can do this. Can I be a psychiatrist? And it really hit me hard. And I was looking around for, what could I do? Because I just did not feel good. And I came across Rapid Transformational Therapy. And, I looked at some of the videos and I thought, wow, this would be a wonderful, wonderful modality because it works relatively quickly, like the name, Rapid. So I decided to get certified and, in the process, became aware of limiting beliefs. So those are unconscious beliefs that kind of affect the way we live. And generally, the brain is trying to protect us, but the limiting beliefs end up, keeping us stuck, keeping us from moving forward. So I thought to myself, okay, this was important. This is stuff I didn't know about. And then I decided I really want to use this, and I want to use this in a coaching capacity to help women like me who had been stuck, burned out. So that's really kind of how it happened.
I love that. I love that. Now, with limited beliefs, you definitely touched on it, as far as what they are. From your experience and, talk with patients, and of course, not giving too much info from your sessions, but why do you think people are developing these limited beliefs, in the first place? How do they typically come about?
Okay. Well, limiting beliefs often come about from experiences. And so it may be traumatic experiences. It may be societal norms. It may be, okay, this is just the way it is. This is the message that I am receiving. Family can make comments, or family can do things in a certain way. And it might not necessarily be terrible or with bad intent, but it can cause someone to internalize something that they're not aware of. For instance, I've had a client who, as a child, she just did something that children do. Okay, it wasn't anything horrible, but she made a mistake. And her caregiver, and this was not her parent, her caregiver made a comment that made her feel very small, made her feel like, ooh, I made a mistake. And she didn't realize just how important that was, but it came out in a session that this scene came out from this caregiver. So the message that she had taken was, ooh, I might make a mistake, I might mess up. So that contributed to her tendency not to speak up, to have difficulty speaking up and expressing herself. And this was affecting her in her adult life, in her work life. So that's just one example of how, a limiting belief can affect us.
Sure. Okay. Before we continue on, Dr. Kimberly, where can folks find you at on social media, or even get in contact with you for a session?
Okay. So I am on Facebook, Kimberly Walker, LinkedIn, Dr. Kimberly Walker. And my website is drwalkercoach.com. So drwalkercoach.com. So, you all can certainly reach me at any of those places.
Great, awesome. And audience, please don't worry. I will make sure the links are definitely in the bottom, because I know people probably scrambling trying to look for pen and paper, like where do I go? I want to switch a little bit with hypnosis. What are some common misconceptions that folks come across, especially with your expertise? But what are some misconceptions, with hypnosis that you come across?
Okay. So first of all, let me just backtrack a little bit, because I don't know, I didn't really talk about RTT specifically. I kind of mentioned it in passing. So, rapid transformational therapy makes use of hypnosis to identify the root cause of a particular issue. And then limiting beliefs are identified. And then in the hypnosis session, we're able to refute those limiting beliefs and resolve them. So hypnosis is really, it's a natural state of very deep relaxation. And during that state, the unconscious mind is open to suggestions. And positive suggestions is what we're going to use, obviously, in a therapeutic setting. So some of the misconceptions or concerns about hypnosis is, mind control. The hypnotist is going to take over my mind and implant all kinds of strange things. So in hypnosis, you remain in control. You are conscious. You're just very deeply relaxed. So, if a fire alarm came on during the hypnotic, during the process, you would just open your eyes and you would be able to function as you normally would. I think that, if you have been driving and you go somewhere that it's a place you're familiar, and you don't even have to really think about what you're doing. Obviously, you're paying attention enough to be safe, but sometimes you kind of get to your location and you don't remember every single thing that you did. So you have been in a light state of trance. So that is a state moving into hypnosis. So that's kind of a form. So that just lets you know it's nothing magical. It's just harnessing your brain's power and working with the unconscious mind to really make real change.
Okay, love that, love that. Thank you for that. And typically, as far as with your sessions, because especially now, post COVID and just even life in general, how long are your sessions typically that you have with folks?
Okay, so prior to the session itself, we will do an intake where we'll really talk about what one wants to work on. So, but the RTT session itself is typically 90 minutes to 2 hours. I like to allow 2 hours. And the nice thing about it is that the induction into hypnosis, that really only takes a few minutes. So that leaves lots of time to get lots of work done. So it's really an amazing process. And I do it all virtually. So, it's done over a screen, and it's very convenient.
Lovely, lovely. Now, we just talked about 90 minutes to 2 hours, and I know people are probably listening like, oh, wait, that's way too long for me. With that, though, what advice would you give to somebody who may be considering hypnosis for the first time and, overcoming that, negative outlook? And of course, I know you're not making people bark like a dog or anything like that. But what advice would you give to somebody who's like, I'm just not 1,000% certain about it, heard
Yeah.
great things, but just not 1,000% certain about it.
Yeah. Well, I would say certainly, I mean, do your research, okay? And hypnotism, hypnotherapy in a therapeutic sense is not stage hypnosis, okay? So obviously you want to check out the practitioner. And there's a lot of stuff online. There are examples on YouTube. And Marissa Peer, who developed Rapid Transformational Therapy, you can see her on YouTube and you can kind of see what the process is like. So it's possible to definitely check things out.
Okay, cool, awesome. So, folks, y'all just need to research and then get in contact with Dr. Kimberly. Um, with RTT, though, especially compared to other therapies and, with your expertise as well, what success have you seen with RTT compared to other traditional therapies?
So, and I don't want to, I'm not putting down traditional therapies. I want to be clear about that. I think one of the major differences between RTT and traditional therapies is that traditional therapies really use the conscious mind. You're using rational therapies, and the conscious mind is set up to protect us, to keep us safe. And in doing so, it's kind of like a gatekeeper. So there is some resistance to change, even positive change. So even positive change can seem dangerous to the conscious mind. So rational therapies can take a long time to break through the resistance. So I think that one of the major difference is that RTT uses the unconscious mind. We partner with the unconscious mind to make those changes. And when someone has an RTT session, we are definitely looking at a particular question, like, why am I procrastinating? And we're really asking the unconscious mind, why is so-and-so procrastinating? And then what typically happens is the unconscious mind takes us to scenes from the client's past. And the client does not relive the scenes, the client reviews the scenes. Sometimes it's more like a feeling, but it's often kind of a visual scene. And then we, together with the client, we figure out what is the meaning? What's the meaning of these scenes? And that's how we kind of figure out what's the limiting belief? What is the message that the client has taken away from these scenes? And then we're able to use that information to refute the limiting beliefs and resolve them. And then we make a transformation recording from the positive suggestions that come out of the scene. And the client is asked to listen to it daily for at least 21 days. And that really helps to seal the changes that have been made. And you're listening to that, and it's really kind of rewiring your thinking. And that helps to reinforce the changes. So, I mean, those are some of the major differences.
Okay, I love that. And you mentioned 21 days, and I've heard it before, as far as 21 days, doing something consistent, it develops a habit. Is there any significance on your part that you do or have them do it for 21 days?
I mean, I just think that definitely is a time frame that does help to develop a habit. I mean, I recommend folks listen to it daily for a long time because I think we all have a tendency towards slippage. So you're making something that was unfamiliar familiar. You're trying to make it familiar. So it just takes time to make change and to continue change. And some things can be resolved in one session. Some more deep-seated issues take several take several sessions. And in my coaching, it typically is kind of a 3 session package, because that's really seems to be kind of a sweet spot for dealing with significant issues. So
Thank you for that. And then uh going off of on a quick tangent here, as far as like piece of advice or even mantra, is there anything that you've held over the years as far as piece of advice or quote that you would like to share with the audience?
a piece of advice I like to share is, we all have uh, a purpose, and sometimes we may get off track, but I believe in the Lord, and the Lord
Amen.
has made us for a purpose. And I think that it is easy to get down on ourselves and criticize ourselves, but we have to remember that we have something to do, and God has a plan, and we just have to stay steadfast and come back if we fall off track, but come back. And that's kind of what keeps me going, because this entrepreneurial journey is challenging. So I just have to keep coming back to, okay, this is really what I'm supposed to be doing. So just keep at it.
I appreciate that. And you kind of beat me to my next question here. Being that entrepreneur, and for the most part, this podcast is definitely targeted to those business owners. What advice can you give for that entrepreneur who's maybe even struggling getting started, or even struggling, getting even that first client to get their business off the ground?
So one thing that I think is really important is not to isolate, because I think it's so tempting to isolate, whether it's from embarrassment, not wanting to look like you don't have it all together. So I think it's important to collaborate with others in your space. Make sure you are with somebody who knows more than you do, because it's nothing innate about this entrepreneurial journey. There's so much to learn. There's a lot of advice out there. So definitely try to, whether you want to join associations, there's lots of Facebook groups that have certain interests. I mean, that's been very helpful to me, because as a psychiatrist, I tended to be rather isolated, unfortunately, seeing patients, working too much. So it's been quite a different way of thinking about things and doing things.
Okay, I love that, and thank you so much for that advice. I know our listeners are definitely going to benefit greatly from it. As we're wrapping up here, can you give us your contact information one more time as far as where folks can find you at on social media?
Sure. Facebook, Kimberly Walker. LinkedIn, Dr. Kimberly Walker. And my website is drwalkercoach.com.
Thank you so much, Dr. Kimberly. And my last question, is there anything else you would love our listeners to know about, whether it be about RTT that we haven't covered yet today?
So I do want to say that RTT lends itself to lots of applications. And that's one thing that is so exciting about it. From sports performance, corporate settings in terms of team building, I think that, and also physical health, weight management, because one thing that we should realize is that food has emotional underpinnings. So, you can be on a diet and it can work, but if you go off the diet, your emotional relationship with food tends to dictate how you're eating. And that's why a lot of diets fail. So RTT can help to normalize the relationship with food, heal the relationship with food. And because the mind and the body are connected, stress, holding in emotions definitely results in physical issues. It can result in autoimmune issues. So RTT can also be very helpful for physical ailments. So I'm just very excited about the modality.
No, thank you again. And I'm truly, truly honored to have you on the show. It's definitely needed. And even more so, and I'll speak, just being that African American male, it's needed in our community. There's a lot of things from our childhood that we tend to bring up. It's outside of racism, it's outside of prejudice. And I feel that you being part of it, helping people heal internally, is such, fascinating. So thank you so much for the effort you put in, the years of work that you put in, and making others become more successful. So thank you again for coming on the show, Dr. Kimberly, and definitely looking forward to having you come back on.
Okay, thank you. It was my pleasure.
Thank you for tuning in to the RNG Radio Show. Be sure to like and subscribe for more episodes and future content. If you'd like to learn more, visit us at danielumstead.com. Stay blessed, my fellow millionaires.